Hi, folks. It's Joe Firestone, and this is Empowering Democracy. How are you today? I hope everybody's okay, though I don't think that everybody has caught up with me yet here today. For that matter, I don't think I've caught up with myself exactly. Ah. Hi, Dolores. How are you? Thank you for coming. Please do share. Okay. I'm going to start up this one. Okay, this is about buying office, specifically buying office in Los Angeles. Why do we allow people to buy office? Here's an example. Here's an example of what happens when we allow people to buy office. Now, of course, I know, and so do you, that we're not going to be able to do anything about people buying office in the near term unless we pack the Supreme Court. That's just about the only way we can fix what's wrong with the situation. I'm about to put into your screen an article from LA Progressive that's entitled Buying LA's Mayor, the Ultimate Test of Big Money in American Politics. And the article is by Bob Reich, on October 7th, 2022. So it's not completely new news, nor is the contest completely new news, but it's very, very important for democracy. And so I decided to cover it in this stream. Conservative economists shrug their shoulders at the record accumulation of wealth at the very top of America. They claim it's not a problem because wealth is not a zero-sum game. A huge amount at the top doesn't necessarily reduce the wealth or potential wealth of anyone else. They fail to see that wealth begets power. At least they fail to mention it. They know it very well, but they fail to mention it, right? And power is a zero-sum game. Its possession by certain people means others don't have it. Substantial power in the hands of a few people can dramatically reduce everyone else's freedom, autonomy, and voice. Robert Reich is quite correct about that. Consider the current race for mayor of Los Angeles. Over the last few election cycles, a candidate for LA mayor has had to spend at least $2 million in order to have any chance of getting elected. But since launching his bid in February, Rick Caruso has spent $62 million, and almost all of it has been his own money. $62 million for a mayoral campaign. Amazing, huh? Over the same period, his opponent, Karen Bass, has spent $2.2 million from donations. In other words, Caruso is outpacing Bass by about 20 to 1. Caruso's net worth is $5.2 billion. He has never held political office. He's been a developer of several faux town square luxury shopping centers, I guess mostly in the Los Angeles area. He is also a longtime Republican who's donated generously to the GOP, but switched his registration to independent in 2019, and this year registered as a Democrat days before declaring his candidacy, and just in time for the mayoral race. Karen Bass spent years organizing in South Los Angeles after the 1992 riots. She was then elected to the California legislature, where she rose to become Speaker and then was elected to Congress. Former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, she was on President Biden's shortlist as a possible vice presidential candidate. By the way, just to be clear, it would have been much better for America and much better for Joe Biden if he had named her his vice presidential candidate. She would have been a much more effective campaigner than Harris. She wouldn't have made as many faux pas as Harris. She would have been a loyal vice president and a much more intelligent and competent one than Harris. That's opinion, of course. Anyway, Bob Reich goes on. So why is there even a contest here? An ultra-rich white developer of luxury malls, who was a Republican until moments before the campaign, is running against a woman of color, who has spent her lifetime in progressive politics in one of the nation's most progressive cities of color, achieving important victories for working people and the poor, all against the backdrop of an ever more reactionary MAGA Republican Party. Yet polls show the contest dramatically narrowing. Caruso is now trailing Bass by just 3 percentage points among registered voters. 34% to 31%, well within the margin of error. That's down from a 12-point gap in August. What gives? Asks Robert Reich. The mainstream media says the contest is narrowing because of voters' worries about public safety and homelessness. The story is by now a familiar right-wing trope. Even left-wing Los Angeles is moving right because crime and squalor. Just look at what happened to that liberal DA in progressive San Francisco. Rice says, rubbish. Crime and homelessness are real problems, but Bass is focusing on them just as much as Caruso is. In her ads, Bass says repeatedly, quote, "I'm running for mayor to meet today's challenges: crime, homelessness, and the soaring cost of housing," unquote. Bass has put forward a plan to bring 15,000 people indoors to expand by interim and permanent housing. Caruso promises tiny houses for 15,000 people and temporary sleeping pods for thousands more. Bass has a solid record on these issues. Caruso is a real estate developer who has never built a single unit of affordable housing. The only rational way to explain the tightness of the race is Caruso's money. Apart from billionaire Michael Bloomberg's three successful New York mayoral campaigns, Caruso's spending is unrivaled in the annals of American local politics. A first-time candidate with little name recognition, Caruso has blanketed Los Angeles airwaves with television, radio, and digital ads, portraying himself as a successful businessman who can clean up the city. I'm reminded, I'm sorry, I thought I failed to share the article, but I guess I did share it. So that is very good. Portraying himself as a successful businessman who can clean up the city. In recent weeks, he has begun to attack Karen Bass relentlessly in television and radio ads. He's also, I don't know what he's attacking her for. I mean, she's like really as clean as a whistle. She's always been really clean when it comes to scandal or anything like that. He's also spending heavily on door-to-door canvassing, especially in Latino and Asian American neighborhoods whose voters were likely to have sat out the primary election and don't typically cast general election ballots. This is all about money, folks. Caruso's $62 million is multiples more than has ever been spent on a mayoral race in Los Angeles. Karen Bass's $2.2 million is within the typical range, but obviously paltry by comparison. Just imagine if Caruso had sunk $62 million into affordable housing. Coincidentally, $62 million happens to be the goal of the United Way of Greater Los Angeles' new affordable housing initiative to create homes for nearly 600 unhoused people. Caruso's humongous spending illustrates a broader challenge for progressives across the country. This year, dark money super PACs, funded by Republican billionaires and multimillionaires, along with an occasional billionaire candidate, have spent record amounts to defeat contenders who are progressive inside of the Democratic Party. Yes, in a series of live streams done at KRTD Media, we covered those primaries and the spending by the super PACs and by the super rich in a series called Dump the Incumbents. We will be continuing similar coverage as the Dump the Incumbents program, in empowering democracy, really during the week. I mean, this particular stream is really about similar issues as Dump the Incumbents, but we'll also be covering similar things every Thursday night, okay, at 9 o'clock on empowering democracy. To go on with the article, the current challenge to American democracy is not just Trump's big lie, it's also billionaires' big money. It is billionaires' big money for sure. There were at least nine progressive candidates. I take that back. At least 10 progressive candidates who looked like they were going to win primaries in the Democratic primaries, who were knocked out of contention by big money from super PACs, PACs, and billionaires. Campaign finance reform can occur even without a reversal of the Supreme Court's shameful Citizens United decision if we enact public matching funds for small donors. That's a reform that came close to being enacted in this Congress. We also need full disclosure of all sources of campaign forms. It's another measure that came very close. So here Reich is basically saying what we need to reverse the effects of CU is simply legislation, like public matching funds for small donors, full disclosure of all sources of campaign funds. But I don't think that's going to be enough. I mean, these people can spend just huge quantities of money, as we see here, okay, in this race. With these reforms, we may do a little better in primaries, but we have to understand that given the relative success of the billionaires in this past primary campaign, it's going to be worse in 2023 and 2024. Now, the billionaires have literally billions to spend on these campaigns. Even the most expensive of presidential campaigns thus far has spent what? Maybe $6 billion, okay, at all levels. We cannot match their spending with funds from other sources. We cannot stop their impact without reversing CU. How can we reverse the CU decision? We have to pack the Supreme Court, people. We've got to pack the Supreme Court if we want to get rid of CU itself. If we want to get rid of its effects, however, there is one other thing we can do, which we will get to here in a few minutes. Bob Reich says, we've been here before, people. When a billionaire developer with no public experience buys a major public office that affects the lives of millions, democracy is for sale. Of course, that's an allusion to Donald Trump. Yes, democracy has been for sale all over the country, or at least public offices in a democracy have been for sale. There is one effective way of stopping that, which is up to the people, which doesn't require any legislation up front. It could be helped by putting a wrench in voter suppression, okay, and gerrymandering. But even without help there, it can still be successful if voters, as individuals and collectively, will do only one thing. When candidates are running for public office, use a litmus test, a simple litmus test, which would work in California right now. If somebody is running with big money, either their own or big money gotten from wealthy people, from super PACs, from PACs, from party committees even, then that needs to be a litmus test. It needs to be a litmus test that is answered with a no. I will vote for another candidate that is not taking this money. If there's a choice, okay, if there's a choice of only two candidates and both are taking big money, there's still a litmus test. And that litmus test should be vote against the candidate who is taking the largest amount, okay, of big money. If people did that in California, in this race for mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass would win hands down. Now, she may still win. She's a very effective campaigner, and she has a very good reputation in California, which I doubt that Mr. Caruso will be able to ruin with his ads. She's very experienced. She knows how to deal with people. Even though he's within 3 points, she may still win. However, if people followed this litmus test, she would win by a landslide. And not only she would win, if this litmus test was applied, then Angelica Duenas would win. Maybe a girl would win. Maybe whoever is running against Nancy Pelosi in California, I'm not quite sure who that is this time, would win. Katie Porter would win. The litmus test is very important because even though it won't work every time, most of the time it will work to put in a candidate who is willing to pass laws that benefit the people rather than laws that will benefit the donors. That's important. People have to pay attention to that. Now, remember, if it makes you feel, if you look at this race and you say, I mean, Rick Caruso's $62 million, and that's the only reason why he even has a chance, you have to respond, okay, by saying, that's the reason why he doesn't have a chance, because we're going to vote against him because he came in with $62 million and made it an unfair race, trying to buy our democracy. That's the way we have to respond. So, that's all I have to say about that. That's my first update for today. I'll be coming in with another update at roughly 3:30 if you saw this one. And Lisa and I will be doing a third update at 9 p.m. this evening. That update will be on John Fetterman's campaign. And my second update at 3:30 will be on the immediate threat to Social Security coming down the pike. So those are what's coming today. I thank you for coming to this one. And I will hopefully see you again at 3:30. Oh, this is Jake. Hi, Jake. What's your last name? There's Dolores and Lana. Hi, Lana. How are you? Jake says, I think we met one time. Oh, maybe we did. I don't recall, Jake, but if you tell me your last name, it would likely refresh my memory. Anyway, thanks, guys. I'll see you at 3:30.